Title matches, #1 contender battle royals, gauntlet matches, good characters, and hot women. What was there not to enjoy about this NXT? Well, unless you're the average indie/internet wrestling fan, then hot women probably scare you, and as for characters, you probably don't even know what a character is. But I think we can all agree, maybe apart from that, there was a lot of good stuff on this NXT. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling for your NXT review for the 10th of January 2023. Now, this show is getting pushed as like the beginning of the year. It's like the new year. They're almost promoting it and describing it as if it's like the first event of the year, when in reality it's the second. I just don't really get that. It's not a massive problem. It doesn't bother me that much, but surely it would have made more sense to have this show last week with the title New Year's Evil. Since it's a new year and they want it to be a show that is like based around the new year, and they're pushing home the fact that it's kicking off a new year, then surely it should be the first show and not the second show of 2023. But that doesn't really matter. I'm not too bored about that. We kick off with Andrew Chase's University, and it was a good way of like running through the show. They basically used this Chase U University segment to give us like a preview of what's happening tonight. So he went over everything that we're going to see. He went over the title match. There was some guy in there, I think his name was Josh, and he was a bit of a dipshit. He was like, oh, I'm looking forward to the Hank match and like the referee match, and like no one's looking forward to that. And Andrew Chase starts yelling at him, calls him a dumbass. Then we get the swear words are bleeped out, and then the guy Josh turns around and got, what's his name? The big guy that just joined. So he's like, I'm cheering for Braun Breaker tonight. I don't like Australians. And then Josh turns around and says to him, aren't you Australian? And he's like, no. And then Andrew Chase just completely loses his head, man. Starts yelling at the guy. He affects him out the classroom, so the guy is basically just get kicked out. Like I said, called him a dumbass. Kind of funny, entertaining segment. Then he gave like a pep talk to Fia Hale. Hale says she can't do this. She's competing against 19 other people, and she says she's only 19. But then Andrew Chase, just releases his inner, Chase moment, and all of a sudden he gets her hyped up, and everyone's hyped, and it looks like it's going to be a big night for Chase U. So we'll see if it's a big night for Chase U, but I tell you who it was a big night for: Donovan Dijak and Tony D'Angelo, because they met in the opening match. Winner gets a shot at the NXT North American Championship, and this, like, I've always praised Tony D. I like Tony D. I like the whole kind of like mafia soprano type character. I think it's mafia boss. I think it's great. But this Donovan Dijak character is also great. Like, when this guy comes out, the pure look at him, he reminds me of the Punisher. Have you ever watched the Punisher TV series with John Bernthal? This guy, he looks like a badass. He walks out, man, and you cannot help notice him. He's got the big leather jacket on, got the sunglasses. He just looks like a fucking dude that he would kill you. This guy would fucking kill you for 5 pence. So, yeah, he comes out looking like an absolute monster. Absolute, like, you look at this guy, then you look at other people, in vanilla midgets and tights, and they can't even compare, man. They really can't. But we get the match, Dijak and D'Angelo. D'Angelo, towards the latter stages, looks like he's gaining control, but we have Stacks, he gets handcuffed to the pole. Now, this happened during the break, so I'm not sure who it was. I believe it was, I don't know if it was Tony D that done it, because he wanted to win the match on his own, or whether it was Donovan Dijak to take him out of the match. But we come back for the break, and Stacks is like handcuffed to the pole, and then later on he gets in the ring and he's like in the corner and he's like telling Tony D, let me do this, boss, let me take care of it, I'll beat him for you. And then Tony D can see that Donovan Dijak's coming at him, and he then tells Stacks, yeah, I'm not your boss, I'm your family. Then he like kisses him on the head and pushes him out the way and runs into like a massive big boot for Dijak, and then Dijak gets the 1, 2, 3 and stares down Wesley, who was on commentary. So really, this was really good here, and it was like a heartfelt moment. I actually thought Tony D was thinking of turning on Stacks because he's a bum and he loses every single match. But nah, he's like, you're not my employee, you're family. So I don't know what they're going. Maybe that group's not going to break up, and I hope they don't break them up, because I like Tony D and Stacks as a duo. But big win for Donovan Dijak here, and I don't see how he possibly can lose to Wesley. I mean, the guy's a monster, like 6'7", 6'8", looks like a badass, man, and there's no way this guy should be losing to someone like Wesley. But But I don't know, you know, WWE, sometimes they get things horrible. Sometimes, a lot of the times, they get things horribly wrong. But yeah, good opening match here. This Donovan Dijak guy, if done correctly, this guy should go to the main roster, and this guy could be world champion. People talk about, oh, like a Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross is boring, man. Karrion Kross, you see him for 2 minutes, honestly, and you just want to go to bed. This Donovan Dijak guy is way better than Kross. He's not had failed push after push like Kross. Now, I know he was in Retribution, but again, they don't even acknowledge that was him, you know, they kind of just pretend that wasn't him, and they're like, well, plus you're wearing a mask, so it doesn't really count. Karrion Kross is just boring, you know, he's been there before, he's failed before, we don't want to see him again, but this Donovan Dijak guy, he will go to the top, in my opinion. Same with Tony D, these are two future main eventers on the main brand, so I know they have to stick around in NXT a bit longer, but not too much longer, because let's be real, I mean, there's no point waiting until these guys get into like their mid-30s or late 40s. I think Dijak might already be like 35, so there's honestly no point waiting, man. Just get him called up. I would do it after Mania, but we'll see what happens. Then we move on to Toxic Attraction are backstage. They say they're going to make Roxanne Perez pay tonight. They said they're going to win, and they said something about someone sweating like a pig or something like that. Bit weird. They also asked Mackenzie why she's still employed, and then when it came to who was going to win, they didn't really answer. They just says at least one of them will be victorious tonight, so I guess we'll find out later on. Then we got the Creed Brothers versus Indus Sher, but we didn't, because Fear Mahan wasn't here tonight. I know that's a familiar story. We've seen on Raw how he just like disappeared for 6 months, and I guess he's going to disappear again. So we didn't get Fear Mahan, but what we did get was former WWE champion Jinder Mahal. He came in, attacked the Creed Brothers, and it looks like Jinder Mahal has aligned himself with the Indian dudes on NXT. Jinder says that Sher and Sagna and Fear fight for honour and respect, but he says he doesn't. So what was he fighting for then? It's not like he made any money out of this. He didn't get any championship gold, so if he's not, what is he fighting for? He just came here for the sake of it. Could have explained himself a wee bit better, in my opinion. But plus we got a Jinder Mahal chant. You know, I didn't think we'd get a Jinder Mahal chant again, but there you go. We've got a Jinder Mahal chant in 2023. We then get the gauntlet match. It's Pretty Deadly versus the Rockers, but no, it's not Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, unfortunately. It's Jimmy Jackson and Brian Williams. Like, who the hell are these guys? But the funny thing is, so Pretty Deadly beat them easily. Then the New Day come out and go, no, you think you're going to have it easy? You think you're going to beat all these like hand-picked teams? They're like, no, we've got two great teams for you lined up. And then they call it the next team, Idris Enof and Malik Blade, and these two are just as much bums as the first two. I mean, New Day were making up as if, no, we're changing the game here, we're upgrading the level of competition. I mean, what have these two ever done? You could argue these two are just as bad as the other two, man. So I did kind of think that was funny there, that these two come out and were supposed to like bow down and pretend that, oh, here comes one of the greatest tag teams of all time. It's like, no, I mean, they're just as bad as the two local guys that Pretty Deadly just beat. But anyway, Pretty Deadly beat them again. A wee bit of shenanigans helped push him over and roll them over. Got the shoulder down. 1, 2, 3, man, whatever. Pretty Deadly win. Then they're supposed to be taking on Briggs and Jensen, but Briggs and Jensen are backstage. They've been wiped out. They're laying down on the ground, battered, bruised, beat up. So we don't get them. But what we do get is the return of the Gallus boys. So aye, if you want more horrible Jockey Wilson or Phil Taylor puns, then I'm sure that they'll be coming to you soon. But Gallus return after being gone for like 4 months. I actually mentioned Gallus, I think, in the preview, which is kind of weird. Maybe I predicted this somehow, but yeah, I didn't think we'd see Gallus again. I thought Gallus were released or something, but now they're back, and they beat Pretty Deadly, so Gallus win the gauntlet match, and then they stare down the New Day. So I don't know if they're going to get the title shot. That wasn't the stipulation. The stipulation was Pretty Deadly had to win it, and they got the title shot. So maybe we'll get a triple threat match or something like that, or maybe we'll get Gallus versus a fresh Pretty Deadly. Winner gets title shots. Who cares really at the end of the day? I don't care. So aye. Then we come back for the break and we see Carmelo Hayes. He's sitting in a diner with a cup of coffee. Trick Williams is sitting beside him and he's wearing a mask and he's kind of like making fun of Axiom. He's like, how can Axiom even see through this thing? And then I don't know, Carmelo Hayes is like writing down on a notepad like how he needs to beat he needs to win the championship, essentially. He needs to become champion, and then Trick Williams tells him, don't write it down. If we say it out, it'll happen. And then the two of them just sit there drinking coffee. I mean, I like the fact that they have these segments, but this one didn't really do anything for me. It was literally two guys drinking coffee. Bit weird, but you know what? And they toasted their coffee as well. Who toasts coffee? Normally you toast a beer or you toast like champagne. These guys are toasting fucking coffee, man. What is this? Seriously, I don't get it. There must have been something in that coffee. I don't know. Then we come back from this and the lights go out and we're about to find out who these vignettes have been for the past couple of weeks, and it is the blonde bombshell, Tiffany Stratton. She's returning, she makes her way to the ring, got new entrance music, got more cameras and stuff like this, so I guess they're gonna maybe, I don't know, include that into her gimmick more, where, well, she was already pretty, but in the past it was more like, she's like this rich daddy's girl. Maybe they're going to go more along the lines of, like, you know, kind of paparazzi, kind of, you know, thing like that. I don't know, but there's lots of cameras, there's lots of photos being taken. She gets in the ring. She says all the women in the locker room are sweating like disgusting pigs because NXT's biggest superstar is back. Stratton says she can't blame them for feeling inferior because she's a revelation. She brags about doing so much in the first 9 months of her career. She says she's better than anyone else. She said she's watched others fail to be her and tried to replace her in recent months. She says no one has her shine, skill or style. Then Stratton says 2023 can officially begin because she is back. She poses, music comes on, cameras are taking pictures and all that stuff, and then that's it. I mean, look, it was decent, it was alright. Well, it wasn't great, but it was okay, and that's good enough for me, really. Then we get the video package for tonight's NXT title match with the champion Braun Breaker set to go against Grayson Waller. So I thought this was going to main event. It didn't main event, but I guess based on what happened in the match, that will be the reason why. So we see everything, the build up, and the build up to this match has been pretty good. We go over it again, you know, with Grayson Waller being in Australia, Grayson Waller wearing the chest protector to, you know, outsmart Braun Breaker, and then we had the, you know, the Grayson Waller effect last week where Braun Breaker's like, you want to see a moment, I'll create a moment, and he tosses him over the top rope, and then he goes live on Instagram and literally fucking does a mad suicide fucking senton dive over the top with the camera in one hand. So that stuff was pretty cool. We see the video package. I mean, then we get the match was okay. The ropes broke during the match, and then I thought maybe it was just a, you know, just a malfunction, but then they broke again. So yeah, it was obviously planted here. It was obviously scripted for these ropes to break, but the way they done it, it looked good because Grayson Waller was like climbing on the middle rope to do his move, and it looked like he had Breaker in trouble, but the rope breaks and he like falls to the outside. It did look legit. The referee's trying to count. He gets to 9. Grayson Waller is like pulled himself up in the ring apron, and then he tries to like pull himself into the ring using the ropes, but because the ropes are broken, he ends up falling back on his ass, and the referee counts to 10 and counts them out. So I mean, this did look legit. This didn't look phony. It didn't look like, oh, he's obviously not trying to beat the count. It did look as if Grayson Waller here was trying his best to get back in the ring. So, you know, man, if you're good, you're good, and Grayson Waller and Braun Breaker are both good. So I guess this feud will continue. But I mean, you could have put 2 other people in this position and they would have made it look like absolute shit, but nah, this looked good. Everything about this looked good. It was a good match up until, you know, the rope stuff came into play as well. But Braun Breaker looked a bit confused and disappointed. So Grayson Waller wasn't happy. People were trying to check on him, possible concussion, but he's yelling at people to get away from him. So I mean, this was good. I like this. Then we had Mackenzie Mitchell backstage with the NXT champion Roxanne Perez. She asked if she's rooting for anyone in particular for the Battle Royal tonight, and she says Cora Jade. Mackenzie asks if she's serious, then Roxanne laughs and says no, anyone but Jade. Then she says, all jokes aside, she says this is a huge opportunity and the women's roster is deep. She goes on about potential winners, and she mentions a few people, and then she says she cannot wait to watch. So I mean, it was alright. I think ever since Roxanne Perez won the belt, the run's been a bit poor. She's not been there for most of it. I wouldn't say she's done anything bad, but I just don't think she's been booked right. I certainly don't think she should be champion. I don't think she's ready at all. I mean, I'd say there's at least 6 or 7 people, probably more, ahead of her that, you know, were more deserving, that were more ready to be champion. But we'll see what this run does. The only thing is, when she said she wants Cora Jade to win, then she laughed as if, no, anyone but Jade. I did think that kind of made her look a bit weak, because she was in a rivalry with Jade, wouldn't she like want one more chance to like get revenge and one more chance to lay hands on Cora Jade? So the fact that she was like adamant that she didn't want Cora Jade to win, that kind of came across a bit weak in my opinion, but who knows, maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. Anyway, we come back for the break. Apollo Crews is watching the earlier segment in his dressing room between Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Axiom walks in and thanks Crews for saving him last week. Crews says, "No problem, Axiom." He says Axiom knows he has his back. Crews expresses frustration over Trick and Melo and says that Hayes will never let him hear the end of last week's loss. So he says he needs to make sure it's not one and done. He needs a rematch. Axiom says Trick's the most annoying person on earth. Crews then proposes a tag team match, and Axiom says, "I'm all in, brother." He didn't say it Hulk Hogan style, he didn't even say that at all, but you know, he basically agreed. He gave a wee shake of the head, nod of the head, and Crews says, "Let's go make some phone calls." I mean, what do you mean make some phone calls? Why would you need to make phone calls? Who are you going to phone? You going to phone Vince McMahon? Just look at Raw and SmackDown. Any jobber can come out and declare themselves in the Royal Rumble. And that's a huge match that gets you a title shot at Mania. So I'm sure if Carmelo Hayes wants, he can make himself a tag team match. But that's why you need GMs, because when you look at this, it is ridiculous. Because, like I said, I mean, on Raw and SmackDown, you'll get anyone just declare themselves in the Royal Rumble. Yet here, Crews say, you know, this is good actually. The fact that Crews is pointing at the fact that he'll need to make phone calls to make the match happen. But you can't have it. How can you have it 1 minute? You've got people having to like go to the officials, go to the authority figures to get what they want, but then in other segments you'll just have people say, "No, I'm in the Royal Rumble and that's it." See, it doesn't make sense. You need an authority figure throughout all shows. You can't just have an authority figure be there and have them only, you know, run one or two things. You have to run the entire show. So it pisses me off every time on Raw when you have like Adam Pearce backstage, but he only comes out for like one thing. You know, he'll come out for just the bloodline stuff with Kevin Owens at the moment, but that's it, and the Bobby Lashley stuff. But everyone else is able to do whatever they want on Raw, and Adam Pearce is backstage, the so-called official, and doesn't do anything about it. You know, it's cheap. Speaking of cheap, Charlie Dempsey versus Hank Walker. No interest in this. Let's just move on. Walker taps out, Charlie Dempsey gets the win. Boring, absolutely boring. Alba Fire then approached Sol Ruka backstage. Fire was thinking how they never got their singles match, and she was bummed about it. Ruka agrees, but she says Fire doesn't owe her anything, plus they have the Battle Royal tonight. Then Fire gets annoyed and she's like, "Do you want the opportunity or not?" And then she like points the bat at her. And Ruka says like, "Okay," and then Fire apologises and says, "Sorry, I've got a lot going on right now." Very weird, then walked off. I don't think this was necessary. I don't see what this did for anybody, but I'll tell you what it did for me. Absolutely zero. So I don't know if anyone enjoyed this. I didn't really get anything from it, but whatever. We get a new vignette for Tyler Bate, who's returning next week. Another guy that I've no interest in seeing, but he says he's coming back for new challenges, right? And to finish some old business. I mean, look at Tyler Bate and then look at Donovan Dijak and tell me how they can even be in the same arena. I'm not even talking about the same ring. How can they even be in the same arena? You know, we've got one guy that looks like an absolute fucking monster, a destroyer, and then you've got another guy that just looks like, you know, someone that belongs in the 70s. I mean, it's 70s with just tights and fucking old school wrestling, man. I don't get it. I honestly do not get it. We see Scripps leaving a message inside Oro Menza's bag. Do I care? No, I do not. Then we get Jinder Mahal versus Julius Creed. Jinder Mahal with a big win. And that's it, really. He hits the Colossus for the pin. Honestly, I just don't see the Creed brothers being around much longer. You've got Julius Creed, who's like the taller, the bigger, in better shape, the better looking, everything that Julius Creed, more athletic, you know, better moveset or whatever. Everything Julius, if you take Julius Creed and you take his brother Brutus and you put them side by side and say you're taking all the different categories that it takes to make up a professional wrestler, and you're going to be like, well, I give him the edge in this department, but I give the other one the edge in that department. If you did that and you lined them up, and let's say there's like 10 different things that you've got to look at, Julius Creed would win 10-0. Everything that you can pick between the two, he's better in. So I just don't see... And I know we've had tag teams over the years where they broke them up because they've seen more potential in one guy than the other. I think of the Hardy Boys, and I'm not saying that Matt sucked, but when you looked at the Hardys, they always seen Jeff as the guy that could go on and do more as a single star. Edge and Christian, again, I'm not saying Christian sucks, but Edge was always looked upon as the guy that could go on and have a better singles career. But those two tag teams were both good. You know, it's just they felt like one was slightly better than the other. But with this team here, man, it's like, Jesus Christ, there is no comparison. You've got one that's way better than the other. So I don't think they'll be around much longer as a tag team. Then we get the Briggs and Jensen in their locker room. Kiana James is making sure Jensen's okay. Fallon Henley says she doesn't like what she sees, but then they both go and have their Battle Royal match. So then we get the 20 Women's Number 1 Contender Battle Royal. Basically, everyone that's in NXT is in this match. So a lot of people in the match. Cora Jade's first eliminated. Wasn't expecting that at all. So yeah, there you go. I mean, Cora Jade's gone. I thought it was pretty weird, but I guess maybe they're going to do something with that. Cora Jade came back out though to try and get involved in the match, and she got eliminated again by the same person. I think it was Danny Palmer. I don't know if she's new or not. The name doesn't really mean anything to me, but yeah, she eliminated Cora Jade not once but twice. We had Zoe Starks eliminate Nikita Lyons. Then it gets down to the end, and we've got Toxic Attraction left on their own. And JC Jane's like raising Gigi Dolan's hand. She's like signalling that she's going to give the win to Gigi Dolan. So JC Jane then goes to climb over the top rope. Gigi Dolan's like saying, no, don't go. I don't want to win. You should win. So JC Jane like comes back into the ring and just hits her with a super kick. Tries to throw her out. Gigi Dolan holds on. Then they're battling on the top rope. Both women fall off. They both go to the mat at the same time. And we've almost got like another Batista-Cena situation where, who hit the floor first? So instead of restarting the match, they don't do that. You've got lots of referees looking on. And then the referee gets in the ring and he holds both their hands. So it's like a boxing match. You don't know who's going to win. Whose hand is he going to raise? And he ends up raising both of them. So both win, both of the new number one contenders, and then we get Roxanne Perez comes out, and it basically gets announced that at the next pay-per-view it's going to be a triple threat match for the NXT Women's Championship. And then we end the show with Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. He is sitting back. Now, my problem is, man, if we've got Shawn Michaels there, why can't we have him throughout the show? Is that too much to ask? Can we not get Shawn Michaels in a more prominent role where we at least see him more? And more involved, like GMs used to be back in the day. Like I remember watching Raw, like during the Triple H era, the Reign of Terror, and Bischoff would appear in at least like 4 or 5 segments throughout the night. Why can't we get that now? I just do not understand it. But anyway, he says no one's happy with tonight's ending. He doesn't want it to end like that. So for the next pay-per-view, NXT Vengeance, he books a steel cage match for the championship. Both Grayson Waller and Braun Breaker are happy about this. They both like stare at each other, and that is how NXT goes off the air. So yeah, thought it was good tonight. Like I said, fun Battle Royal, fun title match. Gauntlet match was alright. The opener was good as well. I mean, lots of character building. Really enjoyed D-Jack and Tony D. So, yeah, I have no complaints about tonight. I thought tonight's show was good. Even the opener, you know, with them introducing and running through the show with Chase University, I thought was good as well. There's a few things I didn't like. Obviously, the Hank match, the referee match, just no interest in that. Charlie Dempsey Hank, screw that shit. I don't really care for Indus Sher and the Creed brothers either. But yeah, no. Apart from that, I'd say there was definitely a lot more good than there was bad. And we also got to see the return of Tiffany Stratton. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this the highest rating of the year so far, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. So there you go, NXT New Year's Evil. It's getting a 5 out of 10 for me. I mean, not great by any means, not good, but it was okay. You know, it was decent, and I definitely would say the best show so far. Not that means a lot. We haven't had that many shows, but still, it's a new year, and it's the best show of the new year. So that's it, guys. New Year's Evil NXT, getting a 5 out of 10 for me. Let me know your thoughts down below. I will catch you in the next one, and of course, until then, been Fog Wrestling. Thanks for watching, and peace.